All right, buckle up, everybody. We're diving deep into Acts chapter 18, verses 1 through 28 this time. We're sticking with Paul's journey, this section. All about Corinthian connections.
And some courtroom drama. Things get really interesting.
Yeah, this section is fascinating. You really see the struggles and also the chances
Yeah.
to share this brand new message, like a little snapshot of the early church growing.
So, okay, imagine this. Paul arrives in Corinth, straight from Athens, and runs into this Jewish couple, Aquila and Priscilla. And hey, remember how we were talking about early church money stuff? Well, this is where it gets really relevant.
Oh, yeah, for sure. There were tent makers, the text says, just like Paul. That's not just a random fun fact. It tells us a lot about how Paul paid for his ministry.
Like the best side hustle.
Yeah. Paul's working, connecting with people, spreading the word, all at the same time.
You got it. It meant he didn't need to rely on anyone financially, and he didn't burden the new believers. Plus, it naturally gave him chances to build relationships, and those were super important for spreading the good news.
So Paul starts preaching in the synagogue every Sabbath, trying to reach both Jews and Greeks. But it doesn't exactly go smoothly, does it?
There's definitely some pushback, yeah. The text says Paul was pressed in the spirit. As he was explaining that Jesus is the Christ, you can almost feel how strong his belief was.
And how'd people react? Not well. They argued with him, even blasphemed. It gets so heated that Paul does something pretty dramatic. He shakes out his clothes.
Oh, yeah, that wasn't just Paul getting rid of dust. That was a big deal back then. It was like him saying, look, I did my part, I warned you, and now it's on you.
Like a wash my hands of this
Yeah.
kind of thing, right? Showing his frustration.
Mm.
And showing that it's not his fault if they reject it.
Exactly. Shows how deeply committed Paul was to what he was doing, and how emotionally draining it was to deal with all that opposition.
Makes you wonder how it kept going. But instead of giving up, Paul switches gears. He finds a new home base, right next door, at Justus's house. Justus was a God worshiper.
That move was huge. It shows how adaptable Paul was. He wasn't stuck to doing things the traditional way. He was willing to go outside the synagogue to connect with people.
And this change in strategy leads to a pretty big win. Crispus, the synagogue leader, converts and brings his whole household with him. Must caused quite a stir.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Imagine what it meant for someone like Crispus to join this new movement. Gave it instant street cred. And probably made other people curious, open to hearing more.
Talk about a turning point. Even with all the opposition, Paul is making progress. But then things take another unexpected turn. Paul gets a vision from the Lord.
That vision was so important. Paul's dealing with rejection and hostility. And God comes in with a message of encouragement. Don't be afraid. Keep speaking. Don't be silent. It's a reminder that Paul's not alone in this.
Like a pep talk from God, right when he needed it most. Speaking of needing it, Paul soon finds himself in the middle of a legal battle.
Yep, the Jews taken to Gallio, the Roman deputy of Achaia. They accuse him of promoting illegal worship, but Gallio throws the case out right away.
Gallio not caring really shows you the Roman perspective on religion back then. He saw it as Jews arguing among themselves, didn't want anything to do with it.
Right, Roman law gave people some religious freedom, as long as it didn't cause trouble. So this episode shows how the Roman legal system, even unintentionally, helped the early church spread.
So, in a way, Gallio not caring turns into a good thing for Paul. He's free to stay in Corinth and keep preaching. But there's still tension. And we see that play out in a pretty brutal incident.
Yeah, the beating of Sosthenes. He was the new synagogue leader. It shows how divided people were and how following Jesus could be dangerous.
And speaking of dangerous, Paul keeps facing risks as he travels on. He leaves Corinth, heading for Syria, stops in Ephesus for a bit, before finally getting back to his home base in Antioch.
It's like a whirlwind tour of the early Christian world. Really cool to see how far Paul's ministry reached and how he kept going despite the challenges.
It's like you can see those little boats bobbing in the harbor as Paul sets sail. But before we follow him all the way back to Antioch, let's pause for a second. Remember you had a question about those personal details in Acts?
Oh, right. Like Paul getting a haircut in Synchrea because of a vow. Seems so random at first. But those little things actually make the story feel more human.
Yeah, they remind us that Paul wasn't some untouchable figure. He was a real person, living in a real world, following customs and traditions.
Exactly. It's easy to get caught up in the theological arguments and the power struggles. But those little details help us connect with Paul on a personal level.
Like we're getting a glimpse of his everyday life, the things that made him who he was. So with that fresh haircut, a heart full of experiences, Paul finally gets back to Antioch. But while he's taking a break, our story shifts to Ephesus, where we meet a whole new character, Apollos.
Ah, Apollos. He shows up like a rock star, described as a great speaker, Jewish man from Alexandria, really knowledgeable about the scriptures. He's captivating audiences with his passionate teachings about Jesus.
I can picture him now, like a first-century TED Talk speaker, right? Charismatic, well-versed, drawing crowds wherever he goes. But there's a twist, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, there is. Apollos was definitely a powerful speaker, and he really cared about Jesus. But his understanding of the good news wasn't complete. He knew about John the Baptist, and he preached about Jesus, but,
But he hadn't quite gotten the whole picture.
you got it. He was missing that key part about Jesus as the Messiah, the one who fulfills the Old Testament prophecies and offers salvation through his death and resurrection.
So he had the passion and the knowledge, but not the complete message. And that's where Aquila and Priscilla come in, our awesome tent-making duo.
That's right. They'd spent time with Paul, so they had a deeper understanding of the good news.
Mhm.
They saw how much potential Apollos had and saw a chance to guide him.
Amazing how they saw his passion and didn't dismiss him. Instead of calling him out publicly, they took him aside and patiently expounded to him the way of God more perfectly.
What a beautiful example of mentorship. It wasn't about proving they were right or silencing Apollos. It was about sharing knowledge and helping him grow in his understanding of faith.
And that approach, that gentle guidance and open dialogue, it's something we could all learn from, especially when we run into those, oops, you might be a little off on that Jesus thing moments.
Absolutely. It's about realizing that even within the faith, there's always room to grow and understand more deeply.
And that growth, that openness to learning and being corrected can lead to incredible things. Armed with this more complete understanding of the good news, Apollos heads to Achaia. That's where Corinth is, remember? And has a huge impact on the believers there.
Like the puzzle pieces are falling into place. Apollos, with his awesome speaking skills, and now a better understanding of the message, goes on to strengthen and encourage the very community where Paul faced so much opposition.
So as we think about this whirlwind trip through Acts 18, what are some of the big takeaways that stand out to you?
Well, for me, it's how incredibly resilient Paul was. He faced constant challenges, rejection, even threats, but he kept going, adapted how he did things, relied on his trade, and got strength from the Lord's vision.
It reminds us that following Jesus isn't always easy. There will be storms, but with perseverance and trust in God, we can get through those tough times.
Another important thing is how remarkably the early Christian movement spread. From Jerusalem to Antioch, to Athens, to Corinth, and now Ephesus, we see the good news reaching new places and taking root in different cultures.
This shows how powerful the message is and how dedicated people were, willing to risk everything to share it.
And we can't forget the awesome lesson we learned from Aquila, Priscilla, and Apollos. Their story highlights how important mentorship is. Clear teaching, constructive dialogue. It's about approaching disagreements with humility, grace, and a willingness to learn from each other, even when we disagree.
It's a great example of how we can talk about faith today, especially in a world where those conversations often become divisive and heated. Makes you think you know. How many Apollos moments have we all had where we thought we knew it all, only to realize there's more to learn? And how many times have we been like Aquila and Priscilla, gently helping someone understand more deeply?
It reminds us that we're all on this faith journey together. We're all learning and growing, helping each other along the way. And sometimes those moments of growth come from respectful, open conversations.
You got it. It's not about proving who's right. It's about searching for truth together. And that brings us to a question for you all listening. As you keep reading Acts, and as you go about your lives, what does it look like to be like a mentor? To have open conversations, to try to understand more? How can we make spaces where people feel safe to ask questions, to challenge what they think they know, and to grow in their faith, even if it means admitting we don't have all the answers?
That's a great question to think about. It challenges us to go beyond simple answers and embrace how complex faith can be.
Wow, what a journey. Through just one chapter of Acts, we've seen Paul's incredible commitment, the struggles and the opportunities of sharing this new message, and how powerful mentorship can be.
It reminds us that even when people are against it, that message of hope and love, it keeps spreading, shaping lives and changing the world.
So huge thanks to you for sharing your insights and helping us break down this amazing chapter. It's been a really enlightening conversation.
My pleasure. Always enjoy diving deep with you.
And to all of you listening, we hope this deep dive made you curious and inspired you to keep exploring the Bible. It's an amazing book. Until next time, keep searching, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep. And it really shows us how those respectful, open conversations can be some of the most powerful moments of growth.
That's right. It's not about winning an argument. It's about working together to find the truth. So that brings us to a final question for all of you listening. As you keep reading Acts, and as you live your lives, what does it look like to be that mentor figure, to have those open and honest conversations, to really try to dig deeper and understand more? How can we create environments where people can comfortably ask their questions, challenge what they think they know, and grow in their faith, even if it means saying, hey, I don't have all the answers?
That's a fantastic question. Really makes us think outside those easy answers and accept that faith can be complicated. Absolutely. Wow, what a journey. Through one single chapter of Acts, we've seen Paul's incredible dedication, the tough stuff and the amazing opportunities of sharing this new message,
Yeah.
and how mentorship can be so life-changing.
Yeah, it's a powerful reminder that even when people push back, that message of hope and love, it just keeps spreading, changing lives and making the world a better place.
It really does. Huge thanks to you for all your insights and for helping us unpack this incredible chapter. This has been such a thought-provoking conversation.
It's been a great discussion.
And everyone listening, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to keep digging into the Bible. Until next time, keep searching, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.